Hey everybody, this is Dallas Doan here, and today I just wanted to answer a question that I received on one of my comments. And this is from Optic 500, and his question is, from your experience working in EA, are people given the option to use Blender modeling software in a AAA studio, or does it have to be a standard Maya or Max? So this has been I've been asked this question before. And so I wanted to kind of think about it and answer this question because I feel like this might help a lot of upcoming artists, and kind of just how, at least share my experience with the two studios that I've been in. So personally, I don't know anyone who uses Blender here at EA, at EA Vancouver. But I mean, I'm sure there's got to be one or two, right? But personally, I don't know any. Every studio is different, right? So I want to make sure I come on and say that, right? Every studio is different. This is just from my experience. With our studio, people who might know already, EA uses we have our own engine, which usually means that we have our own proprietary tools to help with just workflows, right? So we currently use Maya, but I know people who use Modo. I know people who use 3D Studio Max, um, Autodesk 360 Fusion or whatever that tool is as well, right? So I know that there's nothing saying that you can't, right? But the reason why they prefer you to use Maya is because everyone, like, I'm just making up this number. Let's say 90% of the artists use Maya. What that means is all of our pipeline, all of our workflows, all of our proprietary tools are actually, they all work and are built to work in Maya to help work in our engine, right? So so that's kind of why studios, when they stick to a software, they want to stick to a software. Now, for example, for the ones that use Modo, for example, is they'll do their modeling in Modo, they'll do all their UVing and all that stuff in Modo, and then they'll export it out as a FBX or an probably an FBX, and then they'll put it into Maya. And usually Modo and Maya, there's going to be some differences here and there when you import them. And there'll be like stuff that they have to clean out or whatever in the Maya version. And then from Maya, they shoot it out with the tools, the proprietary tools and stuff like that, into the engine. And so that's usually the pipeline for them. But there's a problem with that. For example, if Blender exports out their assets into Maya, but there's just lots of garbled garbage that comes with the Blender file, or right, it means that you have to do extra work in Maya to clean it all up. And or what happens if you import it in there and the scale is completely wrong, you have different scales, or the way that things are calculated in Blender is completely different in Maya. There's tons of different things that can go wrong, right? And if 2 weeks into the job people are noticing like you're having an issue with getting an asset from Blender into Maya, you're gonna be asked to, this isn't working. You're gonna have to move and learn Maya, right? So, and sometimes that's the thing, right? If you moving everything from Blender to Maya is a huge headache, it's probably faster for you just to learn Maya so that you can skip that first step, right? Another thing is the whole editing part of it. Let's say you built all this stuff in Blender, you have all the history and stuff like that because you have the Blender file, right? So it has all the history to it, and now so you've exported it, you got it into the game, right, and everything's fine. But the problem is if another artist needs to go and edit your asset now in the future, they're going to look at the Maya file and they'll see that it's completely blank except for just the asset. And they're going to be like, whoa, like where's the history on this stuff? Where's the reference? Where's the curves and all these things that you must have created? It's not going to be there. So again, it causes a little bit more headaches for the artists, stuff like that. Again, not saying that this is impossible and this shouldn't be done. It's just it does have its drawbacks. Okay. What else is there? Honestly, the easiest and fastest way to learn new software is when you're surrounded by Maya professionals, right? Like if I was a 3D Studio Max user and I'm moving over to Maya and I'm surrounded by just everyone that uses Maya, right? I'll be able to explain a tool that I use in Blender to an artist in Maya, and they'll be like, yeah, Maya has that tool. It's here. You can find the menu here. This is how you use it. Blah blah blah. Right? And it's like super quick. That's the fastest way you're gonna learn Maya, is with all these professionals who know it. And the thing is if you're a junior artist, they're gonna understand that your ramp up and your training is gonna take a little bit longer than another artist who's already been in the industry before. So don't stress that out too much. Another thing is usually when you get a job at a studio, it takes about 2 weeks. Like when you finally sign on the dotted lines, usually they give you about 2 weeks because they need to get you set up. They gotta get your computer ready. They gotta get your access card ready. So you'll have 2 weeks, right? And in those 2 weeks, in your interview, you should know by now what 3D software package they're using. And if you find out that they're kind of like, yeah, Blender's okay, but we prefer to use Maya, that's your chance right there in 2 weeks to go and learn Maya, right? And practice as much as you can, get familiar with the software, so that by the time you start your job in 2 weeks, you'll already kind of get a feeling for how Maya works. And even if you have to ramp up and train up, it'll be a little bit less time. But yeah, overall, I don't see it being an issue, but you might definitely be recommended to learn the three software: Maya, 3D Studio Max, or Modo. And I think something that I think that's important is just embrace it, right? Embrace learning new software, because being in this industry, every couple of years, every 2 or 3 years, there's gonna be a new software that comes out that kind of changes how things work. It's gonna improve quality, it's gonna improve efficiency and all that stuff, right? So you need to embrace learning new software. I find honestly every 3 years there's like something new that's coming out, right? Like photogrammetry or photo scanning, right? And then people use Agisoft, and then all of a sudden there's this new software called Reality Capture that's like does things quicker, you get better results, blah blah blah. Now you have to switch software. That's just an example, okay? Photoshop, for example, right? And now Substance Painter and Substance Designer, for materials and textures creation. So embrace it. And who knows, you might actually end up liking Maya more than Blender afterwards. You know what I mean? So you just never know. What else is there? I think as an overall, if you are starting out in 3D, to find out if this is something that you seriously want to do for the rest of your life as a career, I think it's fine to learn Blender. Right? Go ahead, learn Blender. Learn all the fundamentals, because I think the fundamentals is actually more important than the software itself. If someone gives you a concept art of a sci-fi corridor, right? It doesn't matter, which software you've been learning on, right? You'll know the fundamentals. You'll be like, okay, I gotta break this piece down. How am I gonna break it down? How am I gonna model the large shapes of it first, and then the medium details, and then the small details? Like, these are things that, like, the fundamentals of 3D modeling doesn't change, depending, it doesn't change because of the software that you're using. So focus on the fundamentals. Focus on being able to problem solve things, right? Like, okay, so how do I make this piece modular? How do I make this corridor modular? And all those kind of things, right? Those are things that you're thinking about regardless of the software they're using. So yeah, if you're learning on your own, you know, you're strapped on cash or whatever it may be, or you just enjoy Blender, right, as a 3D software over the other packages, learn it, do it, do you, okay? But I feel, okay, and I'm gonna say this is, but if you feel like no, like I'm serious, like this is gonna be my career, um, you feel like you got the fundamentals down, and you feel like, all right, I feel like I'm pretty close to being ready to moving on to a studio. I think freelancing Blender is fine, but then again, that's me like reading online like what freelancers who are using Blender are saying, and a lot of them like studios don't care. If you do good work, they don't care, right? If all they're expecting is an OBJ or an FBX at the end of at the for a model, it doesn't matter because they'll just throw it into their Moto or 3D Studio Max with an FBX and fine, it's cool with them. Um, but if you're at the studio and you're using proprietary software and stuff like that, and you're serious, I do recommend you learning the bigger 3D packages like Maya, 3D Studio Max, and Moto. Okay, and I'll give you guys an example. So after I was doing a little bit more research, I went onto ArtStation jobs, right, and I just clicked on all the different gaming jobs there were for like character modeling, environment modeling, and all that stuff. There was none. There was zero. None in the job description. When it said 3D package, none said Blender. Right? I saw a lot of Mayas, and then I saw a lot of efficient in the top leading 3D packages, and it was usually Maya, 3D Studio Max, and Moto. Okay, so that kind of tells you what big AAA studios are looking for. Okay, so yeah, so that's usually a good way to find out about what kind of software you should be learning, is by looking at what studios are asking for. Okay, now I want to end this with one thing here, and that's if there are two competing artists for one job, okay, for a job, you both have the same skills, you both pass the art tests, both super creative, right? The one that has the Maya experience might edge out the one that doesn't have Maya experience and only has Blender experience. Just because again, it comes down to, you know, the studio has to pay more money to get you ramped up and trained up, right? So yeah, so to end this out, like I said, every studio is very different. How they handle this is very different. This is me sharing my experience. I recommend that if you're serious about this industry, to learn the top three, the bigger three 3D packages. But that being said, I have seen many great Blender artists out there who use Blender professionally, and I'm not saying that they're any less or more than any other artists. And the funny thing is a lot of these Blender artists actually have experience in Maya. They've used it before, and whether it was learning when they were in school or previous experiences, and then they switched over to Blender. So if they were asked to move over to Maya, it would be very easy for them. So yeah, so hopefully that helps you out, and if you guys have any questions, please put it into the comments section, and I'll try and do more of these kind of question and answer videos in the future. See you guys next time. Hey everybody, if you enjoyed that video, please like, comment, subscribe, and check out all my other videos.